Much love, much room, much more. This is the Dan and Jared podcast. That's what we call it sometimes, just until something else sticks, or it's the Much Love podcast. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Hope you guys all had a good beginning of May. Danny just went to a skate park contest or skate riding contest. I can't even talk about that stuff, but we'll hear about it from him. I'm excited to hear. I'm just excited about how nice the weather has been lately. Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. Same with the nice weather. Went to the skate competition, like you were saying. Met a lot of really, really interesting people. It's beautiful to see what's going on in Philly right now. I feel like there's kind of like a creative renaissance. There was so many people out and about, and it was just like, I don't know, such an eclectic group of people, whether it was like, like the punk rock kids, or then there was like athletic kids, and then there were skaters, and it was just such a wide array of people all convening in one spot with a common interest. It was definitely a beautiful thing to see.
That's really awesome. What was it? I guess it's like street skating, right? There's no bowls or anything, or are
No,
there bowls
that's
too?
FDR is like it's actually one of the world's biggest DIY skate parks. So it's all funded by the community. It's been going since like the 90s, and they literally have giant cement bowls and like 13-foot vert walls. It's actually like not street. It's more like a transition park, but it's hardcore. Like the way it's laid out, you have to be pretty gnarly to like do some of the obstacles there, because like I'm a street skater, so like I look at FDR and it's intimidating for me, even as like someone who skated for 10 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was in Tony Hawk's the video game, right? I
Yeah,
believe.
yep, it's super
Yeah,
like iconic on the East Coast, but yeah.
yeah, and Love Park was pretty iconic too until they kind of destroyed that.
Yeah,
Sucks.
it's a bummer.
Well, good stuff. What I wanted to, I guess, get into a little bit today, a few things, but I read an article this weekend. I thought was pretty interesting, basically about like influencers in the mushroom psychedelic microdosing sphere, I guess.
Hmm.
So the article actually that I saw was posted by Tucker Max, which I thought was pretty interesting. Tucker Max is someone who like used to write blogs. I feel like when I was in like middle school and high school, super raunchy, really funny about like sex and alcohol and
Yeah.
whatever. Really good writer though. He really gets you into the story, and like I from what I remember when I was in high school, his stories made me laugh out loud by myself, and I think it was one of the first times where I could read a few paragraphs and like be brought to laughter.
Yeah.
Um, but he posted an article that he was actually ranked as a top 10 mushroom microdose influencer. And I thought that, and he was like, this is hilarious. He was like, I'm not a top 10 influencer. I think he was actually the 10th person on the list was Paul Stamets,
What?
who I think like Paul Stamets should probably be
Be
like
number
number
one,
one.
yeah.
But because it's such a new industry, I feel like that's probably going to happen for the next couple of years, is people are going to just assume the person they heard from is someone who's huge in the sphere.
Right.
I don't know. So I guess what I want to do is just talk about like some other people and just like what I know about them. And then really, I don't know too much. I think it'd be just fun to hear some people's names, and then maybe we'll delve into them further another time. So Tucker Max, someone I didn't know was too much into microdosing, but after I read that, I've researched. He basically is just an advocate for it, says it's
Hmm.
helped a lot, and has told a lot of people about it. I guess he has a big reach, so people think that he's a big influencer. Um, Other person I would mention, I guess, would be Paul Stamets.
Hmm.
I think he would probably be number one. He's really like the
The grandfather of
creator, I feel,
mushrooms. Yep.
of this, yeah, of this industry. Like I follow, I think the Paul Stamets protocol of how to take them. He's really been like the big advocate, and I feel like too. There's also a guy, Terrence McKenna, who's passed away, another big advocate. But Paul Stamets has been more of the, I guess, more accepted by mainstream because he comes off a little bit more normal.
Hmm.
So people are more receptive to him, where Terrence McKenna was a little bit off the wall, so people didn't listen to him as much. Who are some that you might have heard of or like to listen to?
So we were mentioning off stream, definitely Joe Rogan. I feel like is someone who is bringing a lot of people information about psychedelics, or making people consider it in a different way. I think also
Definitely.
because you said like he's not some traditional, like, I don't know, character you would see on, you know, psychedelics, like some, you know, wearing colorful stuff or whatever. Like he's not some like super off the grid type of hippie guy. He's like very mainstream, very athletic and stuff. So I think like what you were saying with Stamets, he makes it a little bit more palatable, and it's more understanding. And I think it's just cool that like his passion is infectious about it. You know what I mean? He talks about it, and you can tell like when he sees another guest that they know, it's like that's all he wants to talk about, because I feel like that's a common thing with like the psychedelic community. It's like when you see someone else who's involved with that, since the community isn't so big and so mainstream, it's kind of like, oh, you're with one of us type thing. You know what I mean? It's that familiarity. I would also say Duncan Trussell, who is like, he has that show on Netflix. He's a comedian as well. He talks a lot about all psychedelics. I wouldn't say just for mushrooms, you know what I mean? But I think he has some really interesting insights about how psychedelics influenced his creativity and his like kind of life path. And then Russell Brand, even though he's like however many years sober, he's like been sober I think for like 20 years. So he's not someone who actually takes psychedelics, but he interviews a lot of people and has like a lot of really amazing insights about psychedelics, and how like he relates it sort of to how he has like sober trips through meditation and stuff. So I think he's another good bridge for the community of people who aren't super familiar with it, because he, you know, he's not taking them, but he has good things to say about them, and he also brings on a lot of really intelligent experts that have more knowledge than he does. So
I like that. So something I think maybe we could talk about another time, because it just got me thinking quite a bit, is like, can you be sober and microdose? Because in my opinion, it's not really too intoxicating. But I don't know. That'd be just interesting to think of.
well,
What's up?
I was just gonna say a little tangent. I have a friend who's been like 2 years sober now, off of like, you know, everything, all hard drugs and stuff. He still smokes weed and stuff though. So, but yeah, he was over recently, and I was explaining my experience with microdosing, and he was like, "Oh, I'm interested. I don't know." And he's in like a 12-step kind of like AA, I guess the traditional program or whatever. But he was like, that might be something I would bring up to my sponsor and stuff, and see their take on it and stuff. Because like I explained, I was like, bro, if you take, you know, one microdose capsule, this isn't supposed to be treated recreationally. This is like if you woke up and you had like a multivitamin or whatever. It's just something that you're not putting the intention to get high or fucked up. So I think it can be a fine line though, you know what I mean? If someone, if it does make them feel better, and then that could, you know, potentially cause bad habits again. So I don't know personally. It's hard to say. I think more research would need to be done about it, but
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's I think that's something we could definitely delve further into another time too. I like that. I like these conversations sometimes where a lot of things come up. I feel like I have to limit myself and focus on what we started off a little. Otherwise, we'll keep on going off on tangent. But I'm noting that down because I think that's definitely something we could discuss another time. For sure. Of like, are you still sober if you're microdosing? So yeah, I like Russell Brand. I like Joe Rogan. I think it's a little interesting. A lot of these popular influencers we know are comedians. I wonder if there's like a reason for that.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it just seems like a little interesting. But then another one I guess I would like to bring up, and then we could move on, is Tim Ferriss. I feel like he's author of 4 Hour Work Week. I think that's what got him pretty famous. But he's been pretty adamant about bringing microdosing to like the mainstream, and also like doing it in a very intentionally safe way that's not going to hurt the industry by having too many corporations or businesses patent things out and mess it all up and taint it. So actually I saw like a little talk of him this weekend. I liked it a lot. He something that really resonated with me is like, he basically said, why is he so adamant of this? And he said like he used to have these pretty depressive states where he'd have these like suicidal ideations, and he started microdosing 5 years ago, and he's not had one of those moments since. And he said like that's just too clear to him of how beneficial it could be, and he's like really been big on trying to bring it to the masses. So Tim Ferriss, another one I like. Think so. Just to summarize who we brought up: Tucker Max, Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, Duncan Trussell, Tim Ferriss, and Paul Stamets. Pretty good list. People we will definitely talk more about as time goes, and there's plenty more. you have anything to wrap up on those influencers before I have my next question?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of, maybe it might be your next question, I don't know, but I was gonna say something about it's a weird balance now because a lot of these people, obviously, we see are like people who do have very pure intentions. They've been personally impacted and stuff, but it makes me a little wary. I think you posted an article about the rise of psychedelic capitalism or whatever, and I just it's scary to think because like when weed went legal, you know what I mean, there was all these boutique underground growers and stuff, and then a lot of them who had been in the game doing it illegally with even though they had the best quality got pushed to the wayside as like corporate companies just mass produced it and shit. Obviously the quality and the love isn't going to be the same, but I just really hope that the people on the forefront of this movement are the ones that are doing it for the right reasons, and that, you know what I mean, I hope it can retain that integrity. Obviously anytime there's money to be made, you know, people are going to try to hop in the wrong intentions, but why I have some type of hope is that I feel like the spiritual and psychedelic community would be quick to see through, like, you know, the capitalistic side of that, and they probably wouldn't even want to support people unless it's like, you know, the types of people like Stamets or, you know, they're really passionate and really want to do it to heal and help. And I think that intentions would be pretty obvious, you know.
Definitely, I think that's a great point, and I agree. I feel like the weed industry needed regulation, but at the same time, in a lot of states, the regulation seems to be
Worse.
not doing, worse, exactly. Whether it be like limiting THC content, limiting like certain strains that can be sold. I just saw something being proposed in Wyoming that someone I follow on Instagram says this is a big deal, and I kind of understand is Wyoming wants to make like the police in charge of all of the regulation.
That's
and
so bad.
yeah, and basically they bring up this point that like a lot of these, and I never thought of this before, and who knows if it's true, but it definitely makes sense. A lot of these wild policies, they propose in small states so that people don't care so much, and then they can get passed through, and then that policy gets established for the next 5 years. And then in 5 years, they try and promote it in, let's say, New York City or New York. And they go, oh, but they've been doing it in Wyoming for 5 years. Look at that. And it's a way to get precedent to do it in bigger states or in the bigger countries or whatever. So as little as a state Wyoming might be, or how that doesn't seem like it's a big issue, it is a big issue. If that's the way we're going, I don't think that's the best for the industry. I guess my last question, we're able to talk so well and time flies. I don't want to limit us too much, but maybe I'll get like a little of these thoughts into people's or our own heads, and then we can delve into this further as well next week or another time. But set and setting, how important? I think it's super important, but how do you affect your set and setting? What do you do to affect it because it's so important? Do you have like certain places that you take? Do you have a journal? Do you have what?
So one of the things that I just read, this is going to kind of go opposite of probably what you're thinking. One of the things I just read about, and microdosing in particular at least, is that you're not really supposed to alter your schedule and stuff. You're like, you want to kind of do what you would have normally done because it, you know what I mean? Because then you might be perceiving things differently if you're altering your schedule while you're microdosing. So I think in the beginning, on the first, like, let's say it's your first time microdosing, maybe you have a day where you're clear, like you don't have no obligations, you're not at work or anything like that. But when it comes to microdosing, I think you should try to retain the normal life and not, you know, have like a really chill set or so, because it's like you want to see how it's going to interact with like an actual schedule in your life. When it comes to actually tripping, however, and, you know, you're going to be putting yourself in a little bit more of a susceptible state, I do think, yeah, like you were saying, intentionality, definitely being around the right people. A lot of the time personally, some people like being in public while they're tripping. I normally, if I am in public, maybe it's at like a park or something. If a couple people walk by, it's not going to trip me out. But I definitely don't like being in like crowded city spaces. You know, a cop might drive by and throw off your vibe, or you think someone's looking at you. You know what I mean? So I think control is a huge part of set and setting. You know what I mean? You're going to be in a place where no spontaneous independent variables are going to arise and kind of throw a stick in your spokes and have you go flying over the handlebars. So yeah, I do think it's super important. But with microdosing, I think if people put too much intention into altering the set and setting, it might give them a changed perception of what the effects of the microdose are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with all of that, and I think that is important to distinguish that like set and setting might be more important when you're taking like an actual dose or more than a microdose because you're actually like perceiving it, and where microdose is subperceptual, so you maybe should just go on as
Right.
you would. I guess my only thing to add to it, I don't want to go too far, but basically I think that having a journal is super
For sure.
important, and
I
that's
agree with
something
that.
that I haven't done as much as I'd like. I want to start doing a little bit more, but just knowing thinking about what you feel, and not just like going with it is important. So like literally thinking about it, writing it out, writing about what your
Right.
intent is, and all of that. Or if you felt a certain way, where were you when you felt that certain way, or what about it was causing you to feel uncomfortable, whatever. I just think that's important because then, too, regardless of what your setting are, if you're not journaling it and remembering it, it's hard to deviate from it in the future or to modify it or whatever it might be because you don't know what you were doing. So I just think journaling is something I think is pretty important for it all.
I agree, and I think that another important thing to note if someone is journaling or just if they're observing the effects of microdosing with or without journaling, I think one thing that people don't take a lot of account into is noticing how they feel the day after or the days where they're not, because I think a lot of people perceive microdosing as it's something that is like binary. The days you take it is the days where effects are happening, and then the days you're not, it's nothing's happening. But I totally notice like the day after I microdose, there's still effects that carry through. So I think people, if they are, being mindful of how they feel from microdosing, don't just do it on the days where you're actually on the microdose, because I notice effects that will linger, like positive effects that carry through to the next day. Sometimes I feel more rested and more clarity even on the day after. So I think that's one important note if someone is tracking the process. Did you freeze? I don't. What just happened? What the fuck? The fuck? Yo,
Hey,
yo, my bad. My internet just like exploded for a second. Sorry about that.
all good. We were at the last like minute. I was
How much of that did you get? What I was saying before it cut out?
you damn, I like remembered the exact sentence and then I forgot. What were you saying?
I'm gonna just repeat. I was just saying. I think it's important if people are journaling and taking note of their how internal conditions while they're microdosing.
Right there. That's where it stopped.
I was gonna say it's important to observe the effects not just on the days you're microdosing, but also on the subsequent days, on the off days, because I think a lot of people think it's something that's binary, where like the days you're taking it is where the effects are, and the days you're not, it's just a normal day. Whereas I've totally noticed positive effects carry through into like the next day, where I'll microdose, and then the day after where I'm not taking it, I still feel like this positive kind of background energy, or maybe I feel a little bit more rested. That might just be a thing that for me, but I think it's definitely something that people should take into account, because the goal of having a microdose schedule is that over time, it is like completely, you know what I mean? It's the whole process. Even the off days, there's effects from it, and I think that's important for people to note and journal if they are paying attention to that.
Definitely, I like that, and that relates to something I read recently too, where obviously like what you eat this morning, if you have like a upset stomach right now, there's a good chance like what you ate this morning affects it. But what I read was I think it was like Dr. Mark Hyman. He kind of said that what you eat like for the last 2 weeks is affecting you. It's not just like what you ate yesterday that's affecting you. So if you're feeling a little off or an imbalance, it's not necessarily because yesterday, and you're like, oh, yesterday I had 3 smoothies, no this, no that, I was good. It's not necessarily just what you did yesterday. Like there's a lot of things going on in your body, and sometimes a few days ago or even a week ago is affecting you. It's the same with microdosing, I feel.
Well said. Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's called? I wanted to see if you could guess this song before we head out.
Okay.
Let's see. 1 second. Did you get it?
I couldn't even hear it. It didn't play. Yo, that's that Danny Camp. That Sold My Soul by Danny Camp. There we go.
#1 artist that we like to listen to on the podcast. Much more love, much love. Danny Camp, Sold My Soul. Love that song.
And I got a new single coming. This is May 3rd as we're filming this. May 7th. I don't know if this will be out by then if people see it, but I have a song. Probably by the time this is out, it'll be already out. Looking for Something. It's called Danny Camp Looking for Something on all streaming platforms. So look forward to that.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it.
Any models want to be in the music video with me, let me know. Reach out. I'm here for it. All right. Danny, nice talking to you, brother.
Much love.
Thank you. Peace out. Much love. Awesome.
Peace.
Fun episode. Let's try and maybe touch base later